Welcome. This is All Things Equal, and I'm Holly Burrow. This podcast is dedicated to the ESOs who make entrepreneurship support possible. On my journey of building Equal, which we've fondly begun calling the BSO for ESOs, I've had the honor of hosting conversations with amazing humans doing impactful work across the globe. Somewhere on that journey, I realized that everyone that does this work needs to hear the wild, wonderful, and intricate stories that I was hearing. That's why we're here. I want to shine a light on the people building the info programs and support systems that help founders thrive. We'll dig into what's working, what's not, and the lessons learned from the front lines of entrepreneurial support. If you're an ESO, this show is for you because your work powers the future of entrepreneurship, and we are so here for it. We're here to spotlight the leaders, the builders, and the partners driving real impact in small business support. So I want to welcome you to this conversation today with LaGina Harris. So I'm going to pass it off to LaGina real quick and let her tell us a little bit about who she is and what she does.
Hey y'all, my name is LaGina R. Harris. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. I am a multifaceted entrepreneur. I'm a media personality. I do small business consulting, mostly like mind mapping, strategic growth, strategy, anything ops and logistics on the back end. I like to say I'm an analytical creative, if you will. And then I'm the proud owner and founder of the US Space, which is a flex third space in downtown Houston, Texas. And we are all about space revitalization. So when you're thinking about work and what it looks like here, now, and in the future, the US Space answers that challenge. Community building, creating spaces where owners and businesses and leaders can grow and develop their businesses. So co-working, if you will, but we're so much more than that.
There's always so much more than that. That's like such a small word to describe what that's meant to encompass. So just to give a little bit of background, the way that I met LaGina was somebody said, there's this woman you have to meet. So that's how we came to the table together. And so it's kind of been a fun journey since then, getting to know her and what she does. So I want to dig a little bit into that co-working space idea. So I know that that's a big piece of your world at this moment in time. What led you to the decision to jump into that particular functionality of entrepreneurship support?
Yeah, I didn't choose this. You know, as a founder, an entrepreneur, a business owner, I think a lot of us see gaps and challenges. Randomly enough, I was looking through some old stuff, and I found the framework for what was originally, I guess, before the US Space had a name, what I thought I was doing, and it was an event space. And I knew I was going to do an event space. So wild. So I was leaving breadcrumbs for myself before I even knew. And when I moved to Houston, I was like, I'm going to be a full-time entrepreneur. Forget everything else. And I really was creating something that I needed. I needed a space where it wasn't the typical flex third space or co-working space where everything's blue and dry as hell and cold as hell, and there's not a vibe. And I needed something for my analytical mind and my creative mind. So here at the US Space, it's wild because before I actually knew this was going to happen, I knew it, because you know how you get that feeling in the back of your head. Y'all all know what I'm talking about. If you know you're supposed to do it, it's just there. And one of my friends / mentors was like, what does it look like? And I'm like, what do you mean what does it look like? I just told you. And he's like, you need to map it out. And I found this free program online, and I did the whole the architecture mapping out thing for design. And fast forward to last year, I have that and it's not in a box, it's more like an L shape, but we have like sound labs, maker spaces, incubator spaces, conference rooms, open space, programming space. And so, really, Holly, to your question, why did I start? I started because I needed it. And then more people I know needed it, and here we are.
I mean, I feel that loudly in my soul because Equal is a manifestation of something that I needed. I'm going to go with like 2003-ish. Fast forward many, many years to where we are now. But I was launching my first business, had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Had none of the vernacular that I have now. Like, I didn't know that I was launching a micro business. I didn't know that some of the places I was looking for help weren't interested in helping me because I didn't have the vocabulary to ask for the right stuff. I remember reaching out to a whole handful of organizations, and they didn't know what to do with me, and I didn't know what to do with them, and therefore I got no help. And so fast forward many, many years, I had the opportunity to work with entrepreneurs again in a different capacity after building and selling off a couple of different businesses. And I was like, okay, now I know what I needed that I didn't know I needed. So it's a really interesting evolution. And many of the people that I talk to that are in this space of entrepreneurship support are here because we're building a thing that we thought we needed, or we saw other people needed, or we're a part of something that led us to the belief that there's a missing piece. So I think that we're all kind of in this community together of trying to build the missing pieces and make it a more cohesive, service-friendly space. So speaking of service, I know that one of the things that has evolved out of you building the Us space has been a capability that you offer outside of your space to help other spaces create an environment that's meaningful. So can you tell us a little bit about what that is and how you got there?
Yeah, I feel like you're like handing me the beach ball handoff because, when you're talking about the business language and the vocabulary, as I've developed the Us space, I understood that like I'm serving the community, I'm serving other business owners, other small businesses. And so that has developed into like our B2C model, right? This physical space is our B2C model. We're serving directly to our client, our customer, our consumer. But as a founder, as I started really looking at what I said earlier, space revitalization, underutilized spaces, the future of work, I realized that there were a lot of empty spaces that need filling and buildings that need support, whether it is in the idea of space management or building out a space, or, when you go to space management, some of these developers and companies, some of y'all are building out these spaces and then don't know quite what to do with them. And so in our B2B model, we are currently in an expanding phase where we're having conversations with commercial management, property owners, building developers, people that outright own their buildings around, hey, what can we do? How can the Us space come in, help evolve and develop your business community or even your building community? That's what we're doing here in Houston at the Esperson building. That's how we started in this particular place, is like, hey, we're a lightning rod. We're going to bring people in. Even our incubator space in here, we just had our first successful graduate, and now she is actually in the same vicinity looking for physical space for her goods and product service. So we really do have this add value that we're now offering where we can come in and help you manage space. We can help you develop your community. We can even come help build it out, and look at that from a revenue share aspect, because it also reduces the risk for your building or building owner. And so, yeah, that came about, and now I'm in it.
Now you're running with it. I totally get that. And it's there's a few things that we've ended up doing as a company that I wouldn't have told you in the beginning we were going to do that, but I ideated on it with someone at some point, and they were like, I want to do that. And now we run with it, and now it's a normal thing we do. So I kind of get how you get there. But I feel like that's something that's really, really needed, because I meet people all the time that they have these beautiful, amazing intentions around supporting entrepreneurs and around being able to foster and grow small businesses, but they're coming from kind of a different perspective. Maybe they're coming more out of corporate space or more out of an academic background, and there's pieces and elements to it that are just missing. And so I love that there's this opportunity to partner with someone else and help foster some of that, and take some of that burden off that doesn't come naturally because it's not a space they've come out of. In that process of like figuring out what all that looks like and how do you do it, what do you feel like are some things that you've landed on that ESOs or co-working spaces or different organizations that support are kind of missing? What are they not seeing that they need to be creating and evolving for entrepreneurs?
The us space. That's what they
Shameless plug.
need. Well, in honesty, like, me, I'm a positive disruptor. I'm going to ask the questions. I'm going to say the no's. I don't believe in the savior complex. You can't just enter into any community. I don't care what you're talking about, because everybody wants to throw around all these power words, but a community is, within the walls of the us space. There's a community downstairs in our tunnels, and how that develops every day. So communities, you've got to look at them individually, see what they need. And that's one of the things that we're really good at here is, answering the call of the community that's there. You don't have to change anything. You need to amplify and support what's going on. And one of the things that I often talk about, is, people are like, I like staying in my lane. I am not staying in no motherfucking lane. But what I do believe is I do not have to be the driver of every lane that I'm in. I've done a lot of the accelerators and the programs and all that kind of stuff. And I've seen some very powerful things that work, and a lot of stuff that does not work, because it's cookie cutter for the masses, and not it's not, if you will, customized for the need of the person or that cohort. And so like I told you, I've even written an accelerator that I'm shopping to some people. But I say all that to say that when you're looking at communities, when you're looking at space revitalization, when you're looking at all those things, you've got to understand where you're coming from. The us space, we always say it's intentional space solutions, right? We are intentional about what we're doing. Even the color theory around the community that we have here and why we have green, our logos, the story, all of that stuff matters to when and what you're doing. And so intentionality is one of those things. And the other thing is, if you have the means and the funding, don't burn your runway trying things that don't work, or you're not sure are going to work, versus working with somebody that's doing it and putting your dollars where you're saying you want to, and actually doing that. And let me be more direct. Like, somebody will be like, oh, I'm helping small business owners. But then you create something for small business owners, but you're not funding or partnering or contracting small business owners for the thing that you just created for small business owners. So I'm really big on that too. If we say that we're going to help all people that build robotics, and then, Holly, me and you create a robotics warehouse, and we go to the big manufacturer versus supporting the people that have the small stuff that do the robotics right in the city we're in, we're missing the point.
No, I love that, and I think you and I deeply align on that, because a lot of what we do, we got some kickback when we first launched, because a lot of what we do is hyper custom. So we only offer a couple of things that are kind of out of the box. Most things are like, we work with organizations and we build things custom, but I think the world is catching up. And to that idea that you can't just cookie cutter everything. You have to create things that are unique for the audience, unique for who you're trying to serve, how they need to be served, meeting them where they are, all of those sorts of things. Like, we had a really cool opportunity recently to help build some community for some small business spaces that they were trying to launch something for specific communities within a larger city. And the original project was like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And so we launched one with the intent to show that can't be, that's not possible. Like, every space that they were wanting us to launch this program into needed to be curated for the audience that we were serving. So like, one space was heavily Hispanic. We needed to be able to offer those courses in Spanish. The next space we went into, that was not the population that lived there. So that would not have been a good fit. So we had to curate for each of the unique spaces that we went into. So I think you and I deeply align on, like, you can't just do the same thing again and again and again where small business and entrepreneurs are concerned, because every space and every group of humans has their own needs and their own culture and their own things that need to be served in a meaningful, impactful way. So I love that that's how you're thinking about it.
100%. My favorite example is, not all women like pastel. I can't even say it. Whatever those. I
hate it so much I can't say it out loud.
Pastels. However you want to say it. Not all women want their children at work. There are men that love their children at work, and some women are like, F them kids. There are all these things, but it's never good to assume versus speaking and having those customer discovery conversations. And that's one thing that I'm very proud of as a founder is, trust me, this us-based community feels very comfortable walking up to me and being like, LaGina, but and I'm like, cool, let's make that happen. Even with our incubator space, right? We had a member, she was spinning on what she was going to do, and I was like, try it out, let's do it. And then as we were doing that, I'm like, oh my God, this is incubator. Let's formalize it. Let's do this. And then she goes from zero revenue to having enough revenue to need a physical space. And it's like, wow, that's an honor. It's humbling. But that stuff comes from having a physical space that is a flex third space, that space between your home and a traditional office where we can make things happen. So.
For sure. Well, and I think there's a lot of organizations that are very hungry to be able to meet that need, but are not quite sure how to get there. So the desire is there, the desire is genuine, but meeting those needs is complex. And so I think opening the gateway to creating an environment where it's okay to bring in other people to help do it, because I think in days gone by that wasn't always a common practice. So I'm digging that that's where we're headed as an industry, as a space. So tell me a little bit about the incubator idea. So like, you have this business that's functioning there, and she's doing well and she's making it happen. What are some of the things that you were able to kind of help her double down on or figure out or sort through because she was in that space with you that was like a fostering growth space?
So I think there's several things. One is the way we have created the incubator here is you have a 4 to 6 month runway. So you got to hit the ground running, right? You need an idea, you need a plan, you need a strategy, having a schedule of days that you're open. Because she did a pop-up coffee shop. Shout out Hot House Coffee, HAWT House. It's really good coffee. I love it. But she had an idea. She laid it out. She ran with it. And I think that two things happen when you're visible and people see you moving. It holds your hand to the fire, right? So self-done. The community's here. As soon as you're a member here, I'm so proud of the community that's here, and I'd like to think I'm part of it, but it's the humans here. It's like, it's no bullshit. it's love, it's pushing, it's pulling, it's, hey, let me try this. I remember one day we were sitting, there was like 4 people that were doing like pitches, presentation stuff, and the little rolling TVs all around here, people were plugged in and practicing them. Other people are working and they're like, oh, take that out, or oh, that sounded really good, oh my God. So all of these things are happening in real time. So with her, she'd have the pop-up, all the US-based members are coming to get coffee, and then they're ordering it, and then they're bringing their families in here. The building, which is our ecosystem in our ecosystem, right? And they're coming in, they're getting coffee, they're spreading the word. So there's the visibility of people seeing what you're doing and knowing that you're the incubator in our space. And so we expect you to either boom or bust, which is important, right? Because you need to find out very quickly if your business is going to make it or not, so you can pivot or stop. And that's something that people don't talk about enough. And so I think that she's a go-getter anyways. I feel like she would have been successful whatever she did, but I think there was some idea safety here, some accelerating happening here. And then, I'm a business minded genius, and I'm accepting of that without blinking. And we were able to have some great conversations, even over coffee. I'd be like, oh, you should do this. She's like, thank you for the idea. And she'd take it and do what she was going to do with it. So there was a lot of that going on. I like to say there's some light touch mentorship that's thrown into there.
Creating space for it, I think, is really valuable.
All of it. Yeah, all of it. You're so right. And then also, I feel like I'm still a baby in business, and there's women and men that are in this space that have been in business 15, 20, 30 years. And they're like, oh, that's great. Yep. Move that on your website. See you tomorrow. Just quick stuff like that. The aunties.
Yes. And it's that drop in knowledge, I think, that really can make a difference. And I think honestly that idea that fail fast, which I don't necessarily always love it when people say that, but there is some reality to it, because we've all met entrepreneurs that are languishing in an idea that they're not, I don't know whether it's fear, I don't know what the actual core problem is every time, because it's not the same every time, but they're languishing in it because they're afraid to go to the next place. And so I think creating that environment where jump in, do it, both feet in, dive, go, like do all the things, because I've personally seen founders languish and it damage every aspect of their life because they're not feeling successful. They're not making the revenue they need to. Their idea might have been great. Like I can think of one founder in particular that I met very early on in this journey. And she had been sort of working through this business concept for over 20 years. And she had done tweaks and things, and she'd always had just enough sales to keep it interesting, to keep it, oh, people want this. But she had never actually made it to a place of success. And by the time I had met her, the product that she was working so hard for all these years for was now an antiquated concept. But she was so in it that she couldn't see out and couldn't even see that she needed to continue to evolve. And like, we've all seen that happen. That's a pretty extreme case of it, but like, I think that idea of like, go fast, figure out if you can do this, if you should do this now, I think that's a big piece of it. So in that process, like, what do you think that ESOs need to be doing to ensure that entrepreneurship is a sustainable methodology that they're following, and not just continuing to perpetuate that idea of kind of a side hustle or something small that isn't scalable? Because we've seen plenty of examples of business owners coming into our stratosphere, and they've been working for multiple years, and they just keep getting just enough encouragement to keep it going, but they're not building something that's scalable, growable as a long-term pathway.
Ooh, okay.
I know that one. That's a heavy one.
First, ESO. Give me the
entrepreneurship support organization, which they can come in any color, flavor, size, shape, all the things.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's multifaceted. Through Luray Infinity, which is my brand, when I'm consulting and advising and mentoring, one thing I talk about a lot with companies, the owners, the founders, is deciding if you're a small business, a startup, what kind of funding you need. SBA loans are good for some people. They are not good for all. VC is different from angel investing. And it's for some and it's not for all. Self-funding can be great for some people. It's not for everybody. Crowdfunding isn't most people's jam. So like,
it's so much more than people think it is, for one thing.
I crowdfunded once and it almost busted me as a founder and almost stopped this thing that now I have almost 11,000 square feet of space and over 40 members. It almost stopped that. So I'm one of those people that when I'm talking about that positive disruptor space is first understand what you need and your business and where you want to go. Because I was talking to somebody even yesterday and I said, are you wanting to be a tech founder? One, because if you're not, go find a company that's doing it, tell them what you can offer and be a consultant. Two, if you want to be a tech founder, are you trying to be a forever tech founder, or are you trying to go find the business that needs what you need, create a disruption in the industry and have them buy you out and you just go onto the board as an advisor and consult again? Like, what are you doing, right? And if you don't understand, do like me, freestyle all day. I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so I'm blessed with that understanding. I also say that because I'm also a woman, I'm also Black, I'm also a millennial. And so people can take and throw whatever they want. But understand who you are, where you're navigating, get some really good business people around you. That's why for me, even as a business owner, the us-based community is really important to me because I'm with business owners. So sometimes when you're having that I quit day and you're in the walls of the us space, you may just get a nice cup of coffee that's fragranced a little different because it may have some adult beverage in it, and people are like, just take a break, stare out the window and recalibrate, or go home, it's okay, tomorrow you're gonna love your job again. So I think there's all of these balances. So for that, I would say it's really the foundational thing. You need to know, believe, and understand your mission inside and out, because that needs to be the driver of all your business decisions, period. So have a good mission and don't let people rush you, and use your discernment.
I love that, because our mission is very grounded in wanting to change the founder experience and making it a more positive, more impactful journey, other than just at the end of the day, you're just burnt out. So that's a big piece of how we function and why we do what we do. And it's because in that journey of working with entrepreneurs in the first stage of growing this, I came to that same conclusion. Like, you have to ask the business owner, you have to ask the entrepreneur, where do you want to go with this? What is in your head? And it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter if I get really excited as I'm advising and working with somebody that, oh, this idea, this is gold. This is gold. It doesn't matter how excited I am. If that business owner only ever wants to run a cottage business and stay that way and just make enough money to have the lifestyle they want to have, there's nothing wrong with that. And we need to embrace that, because that's what the founder is seeking. And I think there's a lot of gray area in there for how do you help, and the help isn't always helpful.
Ooh, you're on it, because here's the thing. I feel like I'm one of those unique founders. I don't even know if I really know what I'm doing, I'll be honest, except for I'm very good at the community building aspect and the stuff within the magic of what the us space is and how it supports business owners. But everything else is like, I call it entrepreneur you. I am always learning. But one thing that I have learned in doing this work is you can't want it more than the person you're helping. And if they're not ready, they're not ready. And what will happen, and this is for all of those ecosystem builders, and y'all know this, what happens is you you support, i.e. you push them, they're not ready to be pushed, something happens and they get mad, or they stop, or they don't understand. So you have to have this balance of being the builder, being the supporter, being a driver, but you also sometimes need to just sit back. You'll see it in somebody's eyes very quickly if they're not ready. Like, I always say my hourly rate is $250. So if I'm just sitting here with you because you're part of, the Sure program or AlSpark or Red Lab or Founder Institute or G Beta or any of those, and I see it in your eyes, you're not ready. Well, I'm doing this because I'm either an alum of the program, or I believe in something that they're doing, and I want to support founders and entrepreneurs. And I also found it very important when I was going through those programs that I didn't see a lot of like spunky people like myself that are very upfront and forward and aren't just like VC. And I, and I didn't see a lot of like young Black women. So I find it very important to be in the space and make sure that not only representation, but the thought process is it. Because how exhausting is it to explain your business to somebody that isn't your consumer, and their brain isn't willing to bend to understand that it is a needed product, service, or good, right? And for me, I'm a military brat. I'm adapting. I'm out here living life. So we could do robotics and NASA stuff, and we can do hair products. Let me go over here. Let me go like this instead of up and down. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and the reality is that business is business. And like, I've had a couple of really awkward opportunities to sort of to throw my weight around in that scenario. Like at some point I was heavily working with a startup space, like technology startup, and I had this fairly aggressive young male come up to me and ask me, because I had been on stage talking about something, and he came up and he was like, why would I be interested in talking to you if your primary focus in life has always been small business? You're not doing what I'm doing. And I was like, well, have you ever actually built a business? And the conversation took a real interesting right-hand turn from there, because the reality is that business is business, and that minutia changes, and you can always bring in additional expert support for that minutia that's unique to that particular business. But at its core, business is business. You need customers, you need to make revenue, you have processes, you have operations. Like, it's all the same thing. It's just how you execute on it and who your customers are. So I think that's really, it's all the foundational stuff is real.
I was laughing and I was pulling up a memory. That's why I was looking down, because all those business whatevers, accelerators, all that. My favorite is being in there, and they usually get like 15 to 20, 30 minutes with whoever's helping them with their business. And there's always this finite group of people that come in and they look at me and they're like, tell me about yourself. And I'm like, absolutely not. I was brought in to help. And most of the time you get a bio on the mentors coming in and all that stuff. And then they'll start talking kind of like they're disinterested. And then I'll be like, well, have you thought of this? And have you done this? Have you checked this out? Have you talked to this person? And they're like, hold on, let me get some paper. Can you repeat that? And I go, no.
Yes.
I think one of the things, and I've even learned this over time, is don't assume anything about anybody when you yield yourself to business help, right? Because you never know. You just never know. Like one of the best people that I was like, okay, this is gonna happen. I got a mentor through a program I was in, and this is an old white dude. And I was like, what the hell is he gonna understand about what I'm doing? And at the time I was very focused on a target audience for my baseline, right? Like we keep talking about foundation. And what he said blew my mind and is still in my head to this day. And I need to invite him because it's happened. But he goes, LaGina, I can't wait. I'm going to have my office next to yours. And there's going to be jazz music playing in the evening. And we're going to go watch it. And I was like, you get what I'm doing, right? I was like, that's wild. I was like, you get what I'm doing.
Oh my God, I love it when people surprise you and are not like they don't fit the stereotype. They're just being who they are. I love that. That makes my heart happy.
He was so great. And here at the Space, we've done that now, right? We've had
Yeah.
there's office space. We've had concerts in here, one woman concerts. We've had Sulfur Sounds in here. So it's just amazing. And even as I'm talking right now, the champion that started off the incubator space is rolling in and looks like she's about to do some admin work for the day. So all of those things, it's just like, when people see the vision, they become part of the purpose of your company. And so you have to just be able to articulate that and share it and be pliable, but also be baseline in that mission.
For sure, for sure. And staying true to the mission is hard. I mean, I get tired. I'm sure you get tired. I mean, we all have days where I'm like, I'm going to hide under the blanket and watch me some trash TV today because it's all I got in me.
What's your trash TV that you watch, though?
That changes depending on how my mood is. Like I will say I'm a sitcom girl because that is sort of mindless. Like I'm not a reality TV person. I'm a sitcom girl, and I like it. If I'm gonna let my brain rest, I want it to rest in like a happy, laugh tracky kind of way. So I think everybody needs to be able to do that. What are some things that you have found over the years that allow you the time and space to find that respite in the midst of doing all the things?
Yeah, again, it comes down to community. It sounds so simple, but like you said earlier, it's complicated because even when you're in a business community, people will be like, rest, sit down, it's cool. Like you learn very quickly that every contract, every request, every whatever, usually when you rush and do it, then somebody's like, thanks. That got on my desk on Thursday. Oh, I'm going on holiday Friday and I'll be back Wednesday, and I'll look at it the Monday after that. Because
inside you're dying.
Inside you spent until 4 a.m. doing that thing. And I know all y'all out there watching or listening, you either know, I don't care if you're a CEO or you are an admin. So really, what is that old adage where it's like, somebody's lack of preparation cannot be your, like, I don't know what it is, but y'all know what I'm talking about. So yes. When you think about that, sometimes, especially if you're a business owner, especially if you're a leader or boss, set your own cadence. I tell my teams, I'm like, hey, nothing before 10 o'clock. It's not because I'm not working, but I'm in isolation. So one of the things I'm very mindful about is I start my morning off slow. I usually wake up between 6 and 7:30. And I do not move. Like I lay there, I do stretches because I'm like, I'll be 40 very soon. And I'm, I hear the pops and crunches. I'm okay with it. But I also want to honor that, right? And I'll answer some emails. I make sure that my Friday is blocked off how I want it to be. So sometimes that means moving meetings around because Friday is my happy day. And, all of those kind of things. So and also, I'm not in corporate anymore. So actually, I never was. I was a nonprofit girl. But I also understand my cadence of how I like to work, right? I like to work longer, not really rapidly. So like after this, I'm going to go walk around and say hi to all the members and probably have some more of my lunch that I didn't finish. And then around 3 o'clock, 3:30, I'll go back to work. I have a proposal to send out. I have this to do. I have that to do. So I'm just chilling, but I work very intentionally, and I'm mindful of like when I start freaking out, and I'm just like, God could take you tomorrow. Whoever your higher power is, your revered could take you tomorrow. So you gotta enjoy it, even when it's fucking shitty.
Well, and I feel I actually think our schedules fairly mirror one another, which is interesting because I'm also like a slow start in the morning human and all that. And it's something that I've come to over time because I like to work longer periods of time. So like it is not unusual for me to put in a 12 to 15 hour day. but I don't need or want to do that 6 days in a row. So how do I find the balance has been a kind of a weird, crazy journey for figuring out what that looks like. But I think I always think back, like my all of my background is all food service prior to jumping into this industry. And I think I was probably 18 years old. It was my first big restaurant job. I was, like just out of training. And I had been there because I was a pastry chef, so like there at 3 a.m. That's standard issue. So you're clocking 3 a.m. because if you're serving breakfast, you're serving bread and that kind of stuff. That's all fresh for the day. And so I'd been there, and it was probably like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I must have been looking rough. Like God only knows what I looked like that day. Like I was looking rough. I was tired, and one of the chefs came over and he brought me a bowl of soup, and he was like, "I need you to go sit down." He was like, "You've been here way before anyone else this morning, and you're still running around. You look tired. Go sit down." And I like argued with him. I was like, "No, I don't need that. I'm fine. I'm good. And he was like, "Just sit down." And so I went and sat down. He like closed the door to the office. He was like, "Eat the soup and sit there." He's like, "I don't want to see you for 30 minutes. So I sat there. This was pre-cell phones and all that sort of stuff. So like I didn't have anything to do. I basically just sat there. And I remember reaching a point within, it was probably 15 or 20 minutes in, where my body finally was like, "Oh, okay, we needed a break." And I got back up and I worked another 5 hours, because we had an event that night. But I was fine working the next 5 hours because I had been forced to take that break. And that has always sort of stuck in my head around, like, you have to take the breaks, you have to take the time to reset and recover and do all the things. Because if you're going to go that hard, you need to be able to take breaks and be mindful of it. And I think we pass that through to the operators and the business owners that we serve, because they get to see it happen probably even more uniquely with you, because you're physically in the space with them and they can see you take those moments. So I applaud that, because I think it's something that we all deeply struggle with, especially if you're mission driven. Like if you're in it and you're like, I care so much and I want to be here at all hours, and I want to do all the things, and I want to show up for all my people. I want to go to every ribbon cutting. I want to show up to every pitch competition. I want to do all the things. It's hard. Like it's just so hard.
Yeah, and even that, right? Like I want and I need are two different things. And after a while, I don't want. Like I actually don't want to do all that stuff. I want my favorite thing that I say, people are like, well, what do you imagine for the us space? I want to be a talking head for the us space, just like my media business, where I'm the talking head. I don't want to be, my proud thing is walking around Houston and people are like, oh, the us space, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, I've been there. And people don't know I'm the founder, I'm the owner. And it's not because I'm not proud of it, but because this is its own heartbeat. Like even today, somebody came in for a day pass and they were like, can I see the facilities? And I'm like, sure. So I take them around, and then she goes, is this Black owned? And I go, yeah. I said, I'm the owner. I said, it's woman owned, Black owned, millennial owned, Houstonite owned. What you got? And she was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, this space is created so who you are, you can be proud of it. You don't have to whisper those things, if you need to.
We don't want to whisper those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Like for what? Like, so for me, it's those kind of things, like you're saying. It's kind of a chuckle moment when those things happen, because it's also humbling too, because I always say that things like you're doing, things like I'm doing, things like even Her Texas and all of these Flex Third spaces that are really community driven, the Sure program here in Houston, or Texas Women's, and all the stuff that everybody's doing to support entrepreneurs and business growers and earners and everything. It needs to be supported. It needs to thrive. And it's not based off the person, it's based off the ability of what we can support. And I think that that's something really, really important, because I got stuff to do, and I open this because I have stuff to do, and I need a place to do it. And the honor is that other people get to do that too, just because I open this thing. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, and I do feel like it's a unique opportunity when somebody doesn't know that you're the owner. Like I've gotten to have that moment as well in the last in the last like year or so, where somebody was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" I mean, that's a really exciting moment. For that it has its own life, it has its own persona and its own heartbeat, enough so that it didn't need yours to keep on living. So that for me is like that's a huge win. So congratulations on that, because that's an exciting moment where you're like, it lives by itself. That's amazing.
It lives by itself. Like the other day, like one of my team members, this is like maybe 6 months ago. It was so funny because she was the main contact on a pretty big event we do around Afro Tech Week that's here in Houston. We do a activation. It's Tuss House, and there's meetups, coffee meetups with Hot House, like I was saying, because that's technically when we got the idea that, oh my God, she should do the incubator space over here. And then there's firesides, panels. The other side was like traditional flex third, co-working, all these things going on. And yeah, she got an email and she's like, yes, I'm so happy to be talking to the owner. Or no, somebody tagged her in something. And they're like, yeah, the founder and the owner. And they put her name, and then they put and her team and put my name. And I was like, yes, like button, love it. Absolutely. So it was just one of those funny things. And, we'll be in team meetings now and I'm like, shit, I don't know nothing. I'm just here.
You guys are running it. I mean, I think that's the heart of a servant leader thing, like, which I don't necessarily love the term, but I love the activity. Like, I feel like that's running your company in a way where, like, you serve the greater good, you serve the purpose of the company. I feel like that's the right approach, and I very much we function that way as well.
Yeah.
To kind of round us out and wrap us up here, what is something that you feel like as an entrepreneurship support organization yourself is something that you would love to see happen in this community that supports entrepreneurs, that is maybe a reach, it's not something that we're doing yet or you're hungry for or something of that nature?
Yeah, I can tell you right off the top, it is direct funding to all of us doing this work. And it's something I say in every industry. Celebrities, people in spaces with the funding, stop bulldozing and creating it again. Support the people doing it, i.e., the wine, the liquor, the physical space companies and all that. And then, celebrities with money, organizations that need the thing, whether it's corporations, Fortune 500, venture firms, higher ed institutions. You start from the jump. You say, I need this. And it's important that you look around, see people that are doing it very well, doing it for minimal amounts of cost, i.e. the us space. If I told you the funding that we've never had and what we have, you'd automatically want to cut me $1 million check to see what I can do with that. Because, and also know your numbers. Like, if one of the things I always was told is make dollars make sense. Well, let's talk about where you're putting your funding and what makes sense. My $5,000 check now is a year and 5 months into physical space, where, again, I can go over the numbers again, versus, the WeWorks of the world. We cutting them money like crazy and they're burning it out. So it's recalibrating the realistic expectation of who's doing what. And also, when you're talking about that's my main wish, my main purpose, my main driver, is the hope that people will see the people that are doing this work and need the funding, like myself, and fund that venture, fund that company, because they're working and they're working hard. And instead of you starting over and doing something that may or may not help, go to the thing that's already working and helping.
I love that. I love that a lot, because that's because of how we operate, where we're not a front-facing ESO, we support ESOs. We've had the unique opportunity on occasion to pair them with like a corporate or a much larger nonprofit that has the funding to do, and partnering a really, really mission-driven ESO with a larger, more funded partner to create something collaboratively, because we know that they're both trying to accomplish the same thing because of our unique position, whereas the two of them might never actually have that conversation together. So it's been that part of our journey has been really unique and kind of interesting, is we get to see some of that manifest and help create some of that. So I agree with you, like creating those partnerships and those channels and those funding pathways for the people that want to do the work but are not necessarily in the position to execute, to support the people that are in the position to execute and do the work. I think that we've been sort of missing a sweet spot there for a long time, and things are getting recreated and reinvented for no reason, just because the connections aren't there. So hopefully that starts smoothing out over time, because it's all about connecting those dots, and it doesn't always happen.
Even the thing you're saying about spinning, like there's a lot of cities and organizations that are like, we want business development, ecosystem, offices of opportunity, blah, 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 blah. And they create one, they hire people. Those people have never been in business or not even in the ecosystem, so they're getting newly introduced, and it's a new, there's people doing this, man. Just contract them, put the RFP out, and also send it to them, because they're in the trenches. So sometimes they're not going to see your secret RFP, all those things.
Your secret RFP, yes, that's definitely a thing. And I love that, because I had a conversation just this week with another ESO who was a little hot under the collar, that her economic development office had decided to open a small business center and had not opened it up to RFP. And ultimately they decided to close the small business center because it was not being successful, because they hired people to run the small business center that had never operated in that space. And so she was frustrated, because she was like, our community needed that. But because they didn't understand how to connect the dots in that way, it ended up ultimately failing. And it may not get readdressed again, at least for this generation, because it got tried and it didn't work. And so now there's a failure on its account, basically. So I agree with you.
And
I think
like, nobody needs it. And it's like,
no, that's the concern, is when that happens, they think no one needs it, when in reality it wasn't necessarily designed intentionally for success, when you could have simply brought in community partners that are out there doing the work. You're better funding them, you're strengthening the community, you're building those ties that bind and create bigger things. But I think it sometimes gets overlooked because everybody's working in their own silo. So I think that's part of what I'm trying to do here, is I want to de-silo it some. I want to have conversations with all of the different people that work within this space in different capacities, and introduce them to one another and cross hatch those things, because like I said, we've had the opportunity to see some of it that could have been. And sometimes we get to be the one that makes the intro and it happens, but it doesn't, where our timing isn't always right on that. So how can we create a bigger landscape where that's happening more often, and there's a comprehension of how and why it should happen? So I want to say thank you so much for giving me your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Holly. Keep doing your work.
Thanks for joining me on All Things Equal. If today's conversation resonated with your experience as an ESO, please subscribe and share it with your team, your friends, your colleagues. Equal, the BSO for ESOs, exists to evolve how entrepreneurship support is designed and delivered. If you're looking for support, resources, or just a community that gets it, please connect with us. We're here to help the helpers. Let's keep building the backbone of entrepreneurship by supercharging the organizations that make it all possible.